Welcome back, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's course on the Kitab-i-Iqan. In this section, we're covering paragraphs 141 through 146 of the Kitab-i-Iqan. In these paragraphs, His Holiness Baha'u'llah illustrates the nature of true riches, real sovereignty, and power by recounting a number of stories from His Holiness Jesus Christ and Imam Sadiq, the sixth Imam of Shia Islam. Dear friends, we will share with you some following key points from the paragraphs 141 through 146. According to His Holiness Baha'u'llah, true riches and poverty mean independence of all else but God, and the lack of things that are of God, respectively. In the Holy Scriptures, the poor are comforted that wealth and poverty are transitory, and there are virtues in being poor. The rich are warned to care for the poor. And Jesus Christ manifested His real power and authority at His trial by stating to the Jews, "Beholdest thou not the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and might?" And lastly, one of the titles of the Bab is the point of the Bayan. Okay, friends. In paragraph 141 through 143, His Holiness Baha'u'llah addresses another inherent attribute of the manifestations of God and the chosen ones, true wealth and riches. He recounts two stories related to Jesus Christ and the sixth Imam of Shia Islam, Sadiq. He then concludes in paragraph 142 that by riches is meant independence of all else but God, and by poverty, the lack of things that are of God. The definition of true riches given by Baha'u'llah in the context of the attributes of the manifestations of God has a broad implication as reflected in the Holy Writings. In the sacred scriptures, the issues of riches and poverty have been addressed within the context of both the earthly and spiritual realms. The poor are comforted with the fact that wealth and poverty are transitory, and that there are virtues in being poor. At the same time, the rich are warned to care for the poor. Jesus Christ states, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And this reference is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 3. He also warns, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God." And this can be found in the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 24. It's also in the book of Mark, chapter 10, verses 25. In the Kitáb-i-Iqán, the will and testament of Baha'u'llah, His Holiness Baha'u'llah explicitly states, "In earthly riches fear is hidden, and peril is concealed. Consider ye and call to mind that which the All-Merciful hath revealed in the Quran. Woe betide every slanderer and defamer, him that layeth up riches and counteth them." And friends, this is in the Quran, chapter 104, verses 1 through 2. Fleeting are the riches of the world. All that perisheth and changeth is not, and have never been worthy of attention except to a recognized measure. And friends, this is from His Holiness Baha'u'llah, Tablets of Baha'u'llah, page 219. Baha'u'llah warns the rich of the midnight sighing of the poor, lest heedlessness lead them into the path of destruction and deprive them of the tree of wealth. And this, friends, is from the Hidden Words, Persian, number 49. He then encourages the rich to be generous, to give, and to be generous are attributes of mine. Well is it with him that adorneth himself with my virtues. Baha'u'llah counsels the rich to have the utmost regard for the poor, for great is the honor destined by God for these poor who are steadfast in patience. By my life, there is no honor except what God may please to bestow, than compare to this honor. And friends, this is a reference in the Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 202. He then heartens the poor. Great is the blessedness awaiting the poor that endure patiently and conceal their sufferings, and well is it with the rich who bestow their riches on the needy and prefer them before themselves. In the same tablet, Baha'u'llah persuades the poor to exert themselves and strive to earn the means of livelihood. This is a duty which, in this most great revelation, have been prescribed unto everyone, and is accounted in the sight of God as a goodly deed. Whoso observeth this duty, the help of the Invisible One shall most certainly aid him. He can enrich through his grace whomsoever he pleaseth. He verily hath power over all things. And friends, this is from His Holiness Baha'u'llah in the Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 202. Elsewhere, His Holiness Baha'u'llah states, "The poor are the trust of God in your midst. Watch that ye betray not his trust, that ye deal not unjustly with them, and that ye walk not in the ways of the treacherous. Ye will most certainly be called upon to answer for his trust on the day when the balance of justice shall be set, the day when unto every one shall be rendered his due, when the doings of all men, be they rich or poor, shall be weighed." And friends, this is from His Holiness Baha'u'llah in Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 251. Other references to the subject of poverty and wealth, or to the poor and the rich, explain the meaning of true riches. For example, in one of the Hidden Words, Baha'u'llah initially cautions his followers not to be troubled in poverty, nor confident in riches, for poverty is followed by riches, and riches are followed by poverty. He then states, "Yet to be poor in all save God is a wondrous gift. Belittle not the value thereof, for in the end it will make thee rich in God." And this is from the Hidden Words of Baha'u'llah, Persian, number 51. He also counsels, "Whosoever recognizeth the incomparable beloved is the possessor of true wealth, and occupieth a divine station." And this is Baha'u'llah, cited in the Compilation of Compilations, volume 2, page 359. His Holiness Abdul Baha provides another perspective on the meaning of true wealth. He describes the exaltation and perfection of the different physical kingdoms. As far as the mineral world is concerned, the excellence, adornment, and perfection of the earth consist in this, that through the outpourings of the vernal showers it should be green and verdant. And this is in Some Answered Questions, page 88. For the vegetable world, the exaltation is that a tree should stand tall beside the stream of fresh water, that a gentle breeze should blow, and the sun bestow its warmth upon it, that a gardener should tend it, and day by day it should grow and yield fruit, but its real felicity consists in progressing into the animal and human worlds and replacing that which has been consumed in the bodies of animals and men. And friends, this is in Some Answered Questions, page 88. In the animal kingdom, the exaltation is to possess perfect members, organs, and powers, and to have all its needs supplied. But true felicity for the animal consists in passing from the animal world into the human realm. And this again is from Abdul-Baha, Some Answered Questions, pages 88 to 89. Abdul-Baha then concludes, the honor and exaltation of man cannot reside solely in material delights and earthly benefits. This material felicity is wholly secondary, while the exaltation of man resides primarily in such virtues and attainments as are the adornments of the human reality. And this, friends, is from Abdul-Baha, as mentioned, in Some Answered Questions, pages 89 through 90. It is befitting to note that His Holiness Baha'u'llah describes the state of true poverty and absolute nothingness as the last valley of the 7 valleys of one's spiritual journey. This station is the dying from self and the living in God, that the being poor in self and rich in the desired one. Poverty, as here referred to, signify being poor in the things of the created world, rich in the things of God's world. And friends, this is from the Baha'u'llah, the 7 Valleys, page 36. In paragraph 144, His Holiness Baha'u'llah recounts the story of the trial of Jesus, when the Jews were pressing him to confirm his claim that he was the Messiah. After his arrest, Jesus was brought to Anas, the father-in-law of the high priest Caiaphas. And this, friends, is in the book of John, chapter 18, verses 13 through 24, for initial examination. He was then taken to a meeting of the Sanhedrin, the supreme council of the Jews. Caiaphas presided over the council. At the meeting, Caiaphas asked Jesus to declare that he was the Christ, the Son of God. This is how Matthew describes the event. Now the chief priests and elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last came 2 false witnesses, and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and to build it in 3 days. And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witnesses witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said, Nevertheless I say unto you, Hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. And this is from the book of Matthew, chapter 26, verses 59 through 65. Baha'u'llah states that at this stage, an accursed of God arose and challenged Jesus, whether he claimed to be the divine Messiah, the King of Kings, the breaker of the Sabbath day. Jesus Christ responded, "Beholdest thou not the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and might?" This statement of Jesus Christ clearly indicates that the power and authority of the manifestations of God is not one of earthly dominion and power. After hearing this confirmation, the council accused Jesus of blasphemy and condemned him to death. And this is from the book of Mark, chapter 14, verse 62. The death sentence could not be fulfilled without approval from the Roman procurator. On Friday morning, Jesus was taken to Pontius Pilate, the procurator, for sentencing. Pilate asked Jesus whether he was the King of Jews. Jesus replied, "You said so." Caiaphas, the chief priest, was also present and accused Jesus of many things, but Jesus did not reply. Pilate knew that the chief priests had accused Jesus of blasphemy out of envy. This is a reference in Mark, the book of Mark, chapter 15, verse 10. He tried to rescue Jesus, but finally he gave in to the pressure from the chief priest and the Jews and confirmed the death sentence by crucifixion. This is a reference in the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 24. Pontius Pilate was a Roman military governor of the imperial province of Judea from AD 26 to AD 36. Flavius Josephus, the Jewish historian, has described him as a harsh administrator who did not understand the religious convictions and national pride of the Jews. The Christians often debate whether Pontius Pilate's authorization means that he shared some of the guilt in Jesus Christ being crucified. In paragraph 145, His Holiness Baha'u'llah provides another story to illustrate the nature of the sovereignty of a manifestation of God. The following is the original story as described by Luke. And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with a palsy, and they sought means to bring him in and to lay him before him. And when they could not find by what way they might bring him in because of the multitude, they went upon the housetop and let him down through the tiling with his couch into the midst before Jesus. And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee. And the scribes and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speaketh blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? But when Jesus perceived their thoughts, he answering said unto them, What reason ye in your hearts? Whether is easier, to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Rise up and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power upon earth to forgive sins. He said unto the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise, and take up thy couch, and go into thine house. And immediately he rose up before him, and took up that whereon he lay, and departed to his own house, glorifying God. And friends, this was from the book of Luke, chapter 5, verses 17 through 25. In paragraph 146, His Holiness Baha'u'llah describes how the Muslims at the time of the Bab denounced the point of the Bayan in a similar manner to the Jews and the Christians at the time of Muhammad, whom they rejected. The term point is a title given by the Bab to all manifestations of God. He refers to himself as the point of the Bayan, to Muhammad as the point of the Quran, and to each manifestation of God as the focal point of God's primal will. And this reference can be found in selections from the writings of the Bab, page 79, can be found on page 83, and also on page 195 of selections from the writings of the Bab. The Bab also adopted the title of the primal point in a tablet addressed to Muhammad Shah. In Baha'u'llah in the New Era, and this reference is in page 16 of Esselmant's Baha'u'llah in the New Era, it is mentioned that the primal point was a title given to Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, by his followers. Hence the Imams are lower in rank than the point. The Bab used this title for himself when he announced his station as a manifestation of God, comparable to that of Muhammad. For this reason, Shia Muslims declared him an impostor. It is interesting to note that Baha'u'llah addresses the Bab as the primal point, the most exalted word. And this reference can be found, Shoghi Effendi, in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, page 125. Abdul Baha sets out the relationship between the letter and the word. It is evident that the letter is a member of the word, and this membership in the word signifies that the letter is dependent for its value on the word. That is, it deriveth its grace from the word. It has a spiritual kinship with the word, and is accounted an integral part of the word. The apostles were even as letters, and Christ was the essence of the word itself. And the meaning of the word, which is grace everlasting, casts a splendor on those letters. Again, since the letter is a member of the word, it is therefore in its inner meaning is consonant with the word. This, friends, can be found in selections from the writings of Abdul Baha, page 60. The beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, calls our attention to the significance of the term primal point in relation to the location of the Bab's resting place on Mount Carmel. In a letter dated 18th February 1951 to the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i of the United States, he writes, "For just as in the realm of the spirit, the reality of the Bab has been hailed by the author of the Baha'i Revelation as the point round whom the realities of the prophets and messengers revolve, so on this visible plane his sacred remains constitute the heart and center of what may be regarded as 9 concentric circles, paralleling thereby and adding further emphasis to the central position accorded by the founder of our faith to one from whom God hath caused to proceed the knowledge of all that was and shall be, the primal point from which have been generated all created things." And this, friends, was from the beloved guardian, cited in Citadel of Faith, page 95. Thank you, dear friends.